Why do you coach? Welcome to the Nick Anthony Show. I'm Anthony.
And I'm Nick.
How you doing today, Nick?
I'm good, and I have a couple of things on my mind.
What's that?
So, obviously golf. I've talked about golf. I don't want to date us.
I should have started with.
Well, yeah, you have the.
Thanks for the golf ball.
Yeah, of course. You can't really see the logo,
but that's pretty cool.
Yep.
Thank you.
The U.S. Ryder Cup was just chosen, and I think I'm really in the minority of people who just were so glued into this, who they were going to pick. And at some point, maybe it'll even come up today, but I do, it's really want to dial into that, how they make the choices, PKE, all those different things. Not today, but that's on my mind.
Teams in general, or?
No, just, a little bit.
For the Ryder
Cup. But
for the Ryder Cup.
Yeah, exactly. The second thing on my mind.
Because I actually do think there's a show in that.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
Okay.
Yeah, the second thing on my mind is you got a sport coat on today. And I went more casual.
Yeah, well, I'm the opposite.
Okay.
You zig, I zag.
So everyone knows how much we prepare together. No, we did prepare. We did prepare. So,
we did.
So yeah, let's get going.
Okay.
All right.
So we're going to
start.
All right. So we did prepare, but I threw a curveball at you today, as you know. We were both driving over, and I called Nick and I said, everything we talked about, blow it up. So we spent hours and hours preparing, and then I'm blowing it up today. We had a super intense conversation, Nick, and I do want to say how much I appreciate you. And this is where partnerships matter a lot, right? And also being open to other people's feedback matter a lot, because we had a really intense conversation, different perspectives, didn't always agree, right? And it was intense. So there was lots of ways that you could react to that. And one is to shut down. Right, just say, nope, I'm right, I'm shutting down. The other is like, wait, I respect this person, I'm going to listen to them. So it never got ugly, and it's really right. Well, because I respect you and you respect me,
correct.
And I want to learn, right? Yep. And so I make myself vulnerable. It's hard sometimes. It's really hard to be vulnerable, but I make myself vulnerable, especially with somebody that I know knows a ton of stuff that I don't know. Right.
Yeah,
and so
agreed.
You got really, and that just leads into coaching is so freaking hard. Right. I almost dropped the F-bomb on our show. That would have been bad. It wouldn't have been a kid's show anymore.
Yeah.
But it's so hard. It's so unbelievably hard. And it's so big. And it has such a big, giant impact on the world. Right. You think about in your life, right? And I'm not just talking about you, but whoever you are, right? In your life, you think about some of the life lessons you learned. You probably learned a ton in the classroom. You probably learned a ton from your parents. But some of the biggest lessons you learned during sports.
Oh, 100%.
Right? You learn a ton about yourself. You learn about it. Coaches are role models and all that kind of stuff. And so as a coach, you're impacting children. And those lessons with children last their whole lives, right? I think about things that I learned as a child when I was 11 years old, right, doing judo. It's like they have stuck with me my entire life. And so if you think about the role of the coaches, it's hard, right, in so many ways, and it's huge. But yet, who has a doctorate in coaching? Is there even? I don't even know.
There is.
There is a doctorate.
I don't know about doctorate. There are degrees in coaching.
Okay.
Yes. Yep.
All right.
There's masters in sport coaching. Yes.
Okay. Well, that's wonderful, right? But how many people get exposed to that versus how many coaches are out there?
Oh, yeah. It's not even close.
Right. Like I'll admit my ignorance. I'll be vulnerable to our audience right now. I didn't even know you could get a master's in coaching. That's news to me. Yep. That's wonderful. But so it's really hard. So there's a lot more coaches out there than have time to go get their master's in coaching. Right. And it's just really hard. And so what this is really, it's so hard, and there's so little out there to help coaches. that's really what the idea is behind the show, is to help coaches. And we've talked about that a little bit before, but what we haven't really talked about is we have been around a lot of coaches in our lives, and we've coached, right? I've coached swimming, I've, coached some water polo, we've coached, right? You've coached a ton or some, right? But you're around coaches all the time.
My whole life.
And so we have lots of experiences. We have experiences as players. We have experiences as coaches. We have experiences as parents, and we've just seen so many things. It doesn't mean we're right about everything, right? So we're putting out things that we think are best, or we think work for us best, right? Like, so the show that we had originally paired for today, we put on the table, right? It's not even like we said, okay, we'll talk about that in a few months. That's not where we ended up last night when we finished talking.
No.
But that's where we started. Is like, I had a show idea, and you were like, "No, we're not doing that. Are you a moron?" Actually, you didn't call me a moron. It never got ugly. What's that?
I wanted to.
Oh, okay, well, yeah, it came across,
right.
but still, we aren't sitting here saying that we've done, exhaustive scientific studies. That even PKE is something that, I mean, I don't know. We're using the word invented is the right thing. It's something I invented.
Yeah,
right? Is there another model out there that's better? Maybe.
Yeah.
Right? For me, PKE works. Yes. And I found it to work in like so many different situations. So, but that's based on the fact that you love PKE and it works for you and all that kind of stuff. But because we're both people with lots of experience, and we're also, I think, have a decent value systems. And I also think that we're reflective. And I think that's what we're bringing to the table here is our experiences, our ideas, and that kind of stuff. But it does not mean that we're right. I've never, ever, well, that's probably not true. Lots of people probably think I act like a know-it-all, but I never want to be a know-it-all. Let me say it like that. I never want to be a know-it-all, right?
Correct. So I think, I'll just tell the quick story.
Yeah.
So when Anthony and I were talking earlier this week, we were talking about a show, and I was struggling to figure out where I was going to contribute to that show, and so it kind of went back and forth, and we were just telling the crew here about the same thing, that I just didn't see the show in it, and part of the reason I didn't see the show, and I think where Anthony is going, or where he has talked about already, is I was worried it was going to be preachy. I worried it was going to be, and I said to Anthony, we're crossing the line here. I think we're saying, we're talking about it like we know exactly, and it's the one way. And meanwhile, the second show we were going to talk about was vulnerability, and the idea, and we may get into that today or another episode, but that the vulnerability to be open to learn. And we were doing the opposite, I felt like, in that other idea, which we will probably get to, because I think it is important for you to share under that pretense that this isn't
the
fact.
way.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's not the way.
And I think the one thing that we talked about yesterday that was really good is where we got to, and you may kind of go further with this, is the notion that we want to be thought provoking.
Right.
We don't. And I think we probably have done that in the ones we've talked about already, but I probably need to look at it in a different lens that way, to make sure we have. I think when we started originally, it was like we want people to learn something, and you've asked, like, do you think people learn something when they hear this? And I think it's more now, did we create conversation and thoughts, and maybe have people be reflective and consider some of the ideas that we've put out there.
Right.
And I think so. Anthony and I were at a roller coaster of conversations yesterday, and I felt like at the end, I was like, wow, this is unbelievable. Like I feel like we've taken a good step in our evolution,
right? Because
we're new to this.
Well, yeah, we're a show figuring out its voice, really.
Yes,
right?
Yeah. So anyway, that I wanted to make sure I told the story of where we are today because we're laughing about it. I wouldn't say we were tense last night, but I think part of it is I was trying
I said intense. I didn't say tense.
Yeah, okay, that's good.
I'd say there's...
Yeah. That's true. Right. I think I was struggling to find the words to say to you what I wanted to say to you, which you actually wound up saying later, which is, I'm doing that. I'm actually acting like this is the only way to do something. And I think once you said it, it was this, okay, great. This is now taken my guard down, where I think, okay, I think I was worried. Underneath everything, I think I was wondering if you or me would wind up saying this is the only way and sound like that. And I am not like that. Right. And I know you aren't like that. And so that was a fear is we're crossing over to this, like, oh, we're the experts and we've done all this research and we haven't. What we have is what you said earlier, is just these viewpoints, these discussions, these experiences that have led us
decades of experiences in lots of different roles.
You have an extra decade on me. Go ahead. Sorry.
Knife stab. Yeah.
Sorry.
I guess we're not over yesterday yet, I guess.
You're getting there. So anyway, that's my...
No, and that's just absolutely, I mean, I agree with you 100%. And this is, like I said, even PKE. Now, we do talk about things that are constructs that belong to others, right? And so like the 4 stages of competence, that's not ours, right? We didn't create that. We use that, but it's a tool that we use. So there are tools that we're going to bring up and we're going to talk about that other people put out there that we use, that we find valuable. And then some of these things are our experiences and our observations. And so if you watch the show, right? If you're watching the show and you say, you know what, that's a fine way to do it, but what works for me is this, then tell us. Right? Go to the website, tell us whatever. Maybe we'll do a show on it.
Disagree with us?
Disagree with us, whatever. But it's hard to disagree when I'm telling you this is what works best for me. You can help me, right? And you can share your experiences with me. And if it's a good enough thing, well, maybe do a show on it, or we'll at least talk about it, right? But tell us what works for you. Right? I don't think we need to be any more of tact than, you know.
Yeah,
what I mean?
definitely.
Right? So disagreeing is fine, but the disagreement needs to be in perspective of helping. Like, this show is not about you and I fighting. We're not a sports talk show where we're talking about who was the best basketball player ever. I know who you think it was, but we're not. That's not what this is about. This is not about arguing. It's about dialoguing, provoking thought, helping people do one of the hardest jobs in the world, and just helping people realize. Even if all they get out of this conversation is, we know coaching is hard. And we know that those coaches who take it seriously, there's like so many things to be good at. Like, you hear all the time, and it drives me crazy, and it's business or whatever. It's like, do these 3 things and you'll become a bazillionaire. Do these 3 things and you'll have a great company. That's such baloney, right? There's like 10,000 things you have to do right to have a good business. There's about 10,000 you have to do right in order to have a good life and a good relationships and good whatever. You have to do all of those things. Well, coaching's like that. And you're impacting others for the rest of their lives. So you have to take it really seriously. And if you don't take it seriously, then our show's not for you, right? And I'm not telling anybody to go away, right? We want watchers and we want listeners. But, right, this show is really about those who want to take the job seriously, that want to get better, and they want to think, and they want to reflect. And I think we're both the same way. That's why you and I do have intense conversations. We have this very similar value system, is that we know what we're talking about is important. And we know if we're doing our job, we're impacting, and the show becomes successful, right? Then we're helping lots of people in lots of ways, people that we'll never even meet. Yeah. Because we're helping coaches get better, and then they're going to coach differently. They're going to coach better, right? Nick, what's the you did math at some point in your school career, right?
My wife's a math teacher. Okay. We do it a lot at the dinner table.
So I'll ask Mo. So what's the shortest distance between 2 points?
Straight line.
It is a straight line.
I got it. I nailed it. Go ahead.
You did. What's the shortest distance between 2 people? It's not a test.
I was like, I don't know that one, but I'm going to fake it.
I will tell you, it's never a straight line. right? It's never a straight line. You always have to go through curves and gyrations and everything else. And I don't care if it's you and I talking. It took us hours yesterday to get to a good place.
Yes.
Right. But we were willing to work through it.
We were.
So it was not a straight line. If you had said flat out what your face and body was saying, I might have punched you back. Right. Because I could tell.
Punched you back. That means I punched you. But no,
I'm just kidding. But yes, I don't mean it that way.
Kidding.
No.
Kidding.
Again, I respect you too much. And I like to think that you respect me a little bit. But I knew there was something there. So I was open to it. I was open to, I could tell Nick's choosing diplomatic words to be nice, but I want to know what he really thinks because I respect him so much. That's not a straight line.
Correct.
Right? I had to spend time asking you questions to get out what you were really thinking because you were just being so nice, right?
Yes.
But it's the same thing coaching with kids or coaching with adults or coaching anybody, right? It's the same thing. You can't just boom and say this.
Yes.
You've got to think about your positive words to go back to a previous show. You've got to think about how you approach it because good teachers, they don't just say it one way, right? Good teachers say, oh, I said it this way to this kid. That didn't work. I'm going to say it this way to this kid. Well, that worked. And that doesn't work. And then if words don't work, then I'm going to draw it on the board. If words don't work, I'm going to, do video. I'm going to, whatever. Like you and your basketball team story you told.
Yep.
But that was, so you were a coach of ninth grade, right? You couldn't get a straight line, right? You couldn't do it. So you found a different way. So it wasn't a straight line, right?
I tried a different way. I don't know if I found it. I tried.
And so for us, even on this show, it's not a straight line. It's not a straight line between us. And it's not a straight line between us and our audience. And then our audience as coaches, they've got to embrace it's never a straight line either, right? For them to their players, whoever their players are, because coaching is so complex, communication is so complex. You're between two people, and then it gets exponential if you have a team. Yeah. Swimming sport is swimming, running, right? A little bit of one-on-one matters a ton, cross country, that kind of stuff, right? Basketball, water polo, soccer, right? You've got to do the one-on-one stuff, and then you've got to somehow figure out how to make the whole team gel. And that's almost infinite possibilities of things that you have to take care of.
Oh yeah,
to be successful, to be
correct.
good.
I mean, my professional career has been working with coaches, and I've said this to you, and I think a lot of people in my position it's like, oh, I love working with the young people, and I would say, and the educational part, and that is 100% true, but I admittedly, I love working with coaches first because I think coaching is so hard. And I think the reason I'm not a coach is I think I'm a better editor of coaches than I am the coacher. I mean, coaching.
Right.
And so I love the conversations with coaches and helping coaches, my coaches that I've worked with, coaches that I used to work with, that I love having conversations with and breaking down, because I say this all the time to interview candidates and coaching candidates, to our coaches, to anyone, is exactly what you said, is coaching is so hard. And I love what they do. I mean, just think about it. They're their own CEOs of this team that has so many aspects of what a CEO would do. They have to decide, everything. And then, so they have to teach all this stuff, and then they have to get everyone on the same page.
Right.
And then then it actually has a result that people can criticize.
Right.
And it's like, I can have a day and I can do all these things, but my day or that event of my day isn't measured, isn't recorded, isn't on the internet, isn't,
right.
And that's why I think it's really interesting, because people forget about that they have a result, whatever, 15, right. 16, 30, whatever number of matches, games they have, that it's right there in front of them for others to judge.
Right.
And I think it's because we put them up on a pedestal that they know exactly what they're doing. And I think a lot of what we want to do is, in through our conversations is communicate that they don't always know what they're doing. And from our perspective, that's okay. Right. And, assistant coaches, who move up to the head coach and they sit in that chair. And I always say, like, that they're going to fake it to be a head coach. They're an assistant coach who all of a sudden is supposed to know everything. They're supposed to know how to direct and manage and lead a team of assistants, of coaches, of support staff, depending on what level they are, and they don't. And I mean, I really think it is so hard, and I love it because it's so hard. So when somebody does it well, to me it's crazy. It's so admirable because I mean, maybe it's because I felt like I was maybe a failed coach. And that's why I'm an administrator. I think administrators joke about that sometimes. Like, the reason I'm not coaching is because I wasn't a good coach. So now I manage coaches. So they report to me because I wasn't very good at it. I doubt if
that's true.
So it's kind of funny. But yeah, I think that's what we want to talk about.
Right.
Do you want? I have a quick question. A quick statement I want to interject. But
yeah, go ahead.
Well, the only reason, and this will change this a little bit, so I don't want to get us totally off track. But you said how much coaches impact those that they're coaching.
Right.
Especially youth, probably. Well, maybe that's not an accurate statement. I'm going to tell you a youth story.
I've had good coaches, bad coaches, college to youth sports, right? And I'd say I learned a lot of what not to do, and I've learned a lot of what to do.
Yeah,
at all levels.
Yeah,
right.
We'll be right back to the Nick Anthony Show.
Today's show is brought to you by Rio the Film, available for free on YouTube. Access the documentary at www.riothefilm.com. That is RIO. thefilm.com. Watch the inspiring true story of swimming the most iconic marathon swims in South America. www.riothefilm.com.
Welcome back to the Nick Anthony Show.
So the story is in terms of the impact, and I think you have those moments in your life or in your life that you can point back to, and it's just like, it's so clear, right? So I tout myself as the greatest fourth grade running back of all time. Okay. I really find it hard that anyone could challenge that. My stats were off the charts. They're just astronomical.
I'm sure that people would have a hard time challenging that.
Yeah. And you know me and how humble I am. So I peak. I mean, I talk about how good an athlete I was in fourth grade. It went downhill after that. I'm not gonna lie. I peaked in fourth grade.
You were a D1 athlete.
I was, but I was the greatest fourth grade running back. Okay. I peaked so much that I didn't even play high school. I didn't play football after ninth grade. That's how much I peaked.
Okay.
And it wasn't because I was the biggest kid. I just want to let you know that.
Right.
It was pound ball. So I was that good. So I set the.
I don't even know what pound ball is. You have to tell me that at different time. But go ahead.
So so in fifth grade, I get to the next level. It's fifth and sixth CYO football, which is the Catholic youth organization and it's the Philadelphia. And I play for a coach who's my parents' friend, and we were friends with them for years. And he wound up coaching me in a bunch of different sports. But I'll never forget that I was a running back, as I said. And I have a run, and I bounce it outside. I bounce something outside, and I get through the hole, bounce it outside, and I get tackled, right? I mean, it didn't go anywhere. And and this is old school coaching, he rips me. And as he's ripping me, he says, "Who do you think you are? You are a pound it four yards straight ahead running back. One move.
Pound it. Yeah. Now I understand.
Make one move and go. Don't who do you think you? He's going off about how slow I am. Which, by the way, in fourth grade, I was by far and away the fastest kid. So, but I remember thinking wow, he just was so honest with me, and. Don't get me wrong, it stung. I mean, I went home and I'm sure I just went to my parents and was like, he's crazy. He doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't know what he's saying. He has no idea what I can do. Right. I mean, who knows?
Right.
But he impacted my life because it was that humility of, you aren't you got to always prove yourself. You got to always
Right.
play the game you're in. And the game that I was in was I was now the smallest kid because there was no weight, limit and everything. And I wasn't the fastest kid. And I was playing with older kids because I was the fifth grader. So I was what I was, and he was telling me what I was.
Right.
And what I was, when in fourth grade was, yes, I could do that. I could bounce it outside. And it's the reason, kids as they get older, or even, high school to college to pro, they have trouble at the next level sometimes because what they could do at that level, they can't do at the next level. So anyway, it was a story that I just talk about how coaches can impact the lives. I remember the story because I remember it put me in my place. It humbled me. Again, I had to reflect on that.
Right.
And I just appreciated the honesty and, the way he coached me, which was harder. And I always wanted to be coached hard. I shouldn't say always wanted to. I don't think I did in fifth grade, but in reflection, I know that was the right way to coach me. So
he was pretty much a straight line on that, but it took time.
Oh, he was. My mom hated him, by the way. I mean,
because
I'm kidding. I mean, she was pissed at him.
I hope he doesn't.
And they
watch
were friends.
I hope he does. Yeah,
I know. Yeah.
I hope he doesn't watch the show.
Yeah, he was the best. Yeah, he was. He's just hilarious.
But I would, but that's where like a coach had to make he had to make a decision. This is part of what makes it so hard, right? He made a decision. It took you time to absorb that information. If he would have handled it differently, could he have had the same impact more quickly? Right? I don't know, but I'm not saying I have the right answer here. I'm saying this is why the coach's job is so hard, is because almost never, right, is the shortest distance between two people in a straight line. He went straight line, right? Yeah. But if he would approach it as, hey, Nick, come here. Let me show you what the older kids do when they play. If you want to, and he took you over there and had you watch the older kids, the fifth graders playing against. When you get to fifth grade, you're going to have to deal with that. So that's why I'm telling you that you need to do this. Because for you to play at that level, you need to be ready, and this is how you need to be ready. That would have been much more curvy, right? It might not have scarred you as much, but
it wouldn't have affected me as much.
Well, okay, but that's what I'm saying. So it might say, I'm not saying that that's the right way. I'm not saying he did it the right way or the wrong way. But I'm just saying that's a little tiny decision out of the thousands of decisions a coach has to make in every practice, right? Yeah, that's why the job is so hard, and that's what we want this show to be about. Is it's making the coach's job. It's not going to make it less hard because it's still going to be hard, but maybe we introduce ideas, maybe we introduce some tools, maybe we get people to think and reflect, and maybe we help people refine their own system. Yeah. Like I don't, from the first episode, I did PKE without knowing I was doing PKE because I was just doing it. I knew I had to take care of like all these things.
Wait, hold on, say that again. PKE. When did you PKE? When you?
So it was
when you figured it out.
When I figured it out was.
Okay. As part of the swimming, right?
It was part of the it was part of my part of my marathon swimming, but I figured it out after I did the English Channel and after I did a bunch of swims, and I was doing these keynotes and people kept asking me how much was mental, how much was physical, and I did bad jokes because I made a bad because I hadn't really reflected on it. And then once I reflected on it and I looked at all the stuff that I did to answer that question, like what did I do in all my training and all my preparation? It's like, oh wait. Those are different things. That knowledge and that emotional management and development and growth that I had to do were actually different things. And that's when I figured out PKE. So if the show helps somebody argue with us, if they get mad and say, oh, Anthony, you're full of baloney, I do it like this. Well, then if we get you to articulate through reflection, what you're doing, then that becomes a tool you can use. Oh. And I beg you to send it into the show, to share it with us, and we'll talk about it, right? But that's so if we do that, right, then there's value in the show. There's value in people watching the show or listening to the show, if we help them with their own thinking, even if they don't get an idea from us, but we provoke them into thinking and reflecting more about their own ideas. That gives them, that they can create a tool.
Yeah, I think we're going to go to places with guests. Try to bring on coaches, which hopefully we'll do soon.
Yeah.
Right. And I think the one
we have
thing
one coming up, so
I think the one thing that is interesting that maybe younger coaches, newer coaches, whatever, is the really good ones make it look easy. And I think we'll get into that a little bit because the one coach, and I won't mention who it is yet, that I'm thinking of, but we are going to have on the show, makes it look easy. And I know because I work with them for 16, 17 years. I know it's not easy, right. And I know it wasn't easy for them. So I think sometimes you get, as we all do, with self-doubt and reflecting, and you see the finished product for people who are successful, and you don't realize all the things that they struggled, right. Those decisions that they had to make, whether it was a disciplined decision or they should have called timeout and they didn't, and it lost the game, and all those, I think you said, all those hundreds of decisions that they need to make in general that are kind of that affect culture and affect team, right. and affect individuals, but also those decisions that they make during games, during events that affect the outcome, and they got to the point where they had to learn. They needed to learn. They needed to be open, and the best ones, I think, were open to learning,
right?
And are self-reflective. I touched on it, you touched on it during the PKE, just how important it is for coaches to have high E,
right? And
then work on their E, because their emotional skills are just so important, and really do help lessen how hard coaching is. Right. And it's fascinating. There's for me, it's a passion. It's right. A passion of watching coaches, evaluating coaches, seeing what they're doing, what strategy they're doing, how they building culture, how they keep teaching skills,
what are their values,
all the stuff that we talk about.
Right.
We're trying to frame and give ideas, and then get other coaches to think about it. And I hope that's what we do.
Me too. I mean, that's the objective, right? The coaches, like I said, right? The coach's job is incredibly hard. It's so much harder than people realize. And it doesn't matter whether you're talking about pee-wee sports or splash ball and water polo or the pro level. It's really, really hard because the shortest distance between two people is never a straight line, and then it just gets exponential from there. So it's everything from communication to goal setting to the 4 stages of competence to whatever. And I contend that the people that you say make it look easy, right? It was hard. They had to go through all those 4 stages, no matter what, right? So all those kind of things, all that matters. And we're not saying, I want to make sure that we say, we're not saying that this is the way. We're talking about tools that we've seen. We've talked about things. We're talking about things that we wish coaches knew in some cases, because you see some coaches out there who don't have a tool. They don't, for whatever this is going on at this time, they don't know how to deal with the situation. And we've seen it, mm-hmm. right? In youth sports, adults, everything, right? We've seen it. So we talk about those kinds of things, and we're going to hit those subjects. Mm-hmm. Everything from vulnerability to communications to goal setting to all that kind of stuff. We're going to go through all those kinds of things. But you're right. It's not the way. It's a way, and it's a way that we found successful. When we bring our guests on, we're going to find out from them what they do. Yeah. And that won't be us.
Yeah, one of the things that's really funny, and Anthony, you and I talked about this the other day, and it's so true, is so Anthony loves, I was joking about this yesterday a little bit. Anthony loves to frame things and put things in categories. So whether it's, this isn't our concept, but the 4 stages of competency, right? And so then Anthony and I have been discussing this, and Anthony's like, he calls something like the 3 of this. and it makes me laugh, right? So it's the yin and the yang, because I just remember as a kid in going to school, I never cared, and I should have, what things were called, right? This technique, this theory, this whatever. I wanted to talk about actually the theory, right? But what you've taught me is by doing that, it frames your thoughts. If I'm visualizing some of the things we talk about, I visualize mine as this ping pong, all these things. And we talked about this a little bit in PKE, how you helped me realize what I was doing.
Right.
And so though some of them make me laugh, right? When we do this and you're like, I don't know if it's 4 or 5. I don't know which one and we have those conversations, and it makes me laugh.
I had one with my daughter, and she added to it. Anyway, go
right?
ahead.
Yeah. So, but I do think what we're trying to do in some of those topics we're going to talk about, and we have talked about, is actually to organize. It's just organizing. It's a way to organize the conversation and the reflection, and then obviously the organizing your thoughts.
Well, it makes it a tool. So that it makes it a tool. Like
yes.
So again, I'm going to go back to PKE for a second, right? And that is, I had whatever it was, 80 things I was working on to prepare myself to swim for the English Channel, and then once I was forced to answer those people's questions from the keynotes, it's like PKE came from that. And it's like, oh, now I have a tool.
Yeah.
And now I can lay that out, and I can use it for business, and I use it for other things now that I figured it out. So if we just help coaches think about what they do and categorize their things and make all their thoughts into tools, then we help them.
Yeah.
Right? We help them.
Well, I think, a good way to say is, your tools are, PKE. It's such a great, and I love it. I think it's so thought-provoking to me, and I hope it has, and I hope it is with everyone.
Maybe there's another thing that.
Oh yeah, definitely, yeah. But in itself, it could bring up other people's systems,
because there's lots of subcategories within PKE.
Correct.
Right? Like under physical, there's like strength, stamina, skill, whatever.
But the funny thing about it with me is yours are I don't know what the way to say it. say it, but it's you compare this thought of PKE, and then I don't even have my own original. It's fountain and a drain, right? And there's no frame in that. It's just yours. And I think that's what we're going to yin and yang off each other, right? Is I have a lot more feel that you help me organize, and I think that's what's going to come. Hopefully, what will come out in the show is those different ways, and why we will play off each other a lot. So
anyway, so coaching's hard.
Coaching is hard.
Coaching is hard.
and
so
we're going to get into it.
We're going to do the best that we can to help people figure out how to make their jobs better and make them better at what they're coaching.
Yeah, and
better at coaching.
And we want the last point I'll say is we want people to share it. We really share what their reaction is, what their thoughts were, what their criticisms were, what their agreements were. And then we'll share it with everyone.
My criticism, make it constructive.
Yes.
And do it in a helpful way, right?
Yes.
You're trying to, if you're sending in your ideas, don't just tell me I'm a dummy, right? Explain what system you use. That's your job. but what system do you use as a coach that would be helpful to others? Those are what are going to get airtime on here. Is it helpful things, right?
Yes.
We might make fun of you if you just criticize us, but if you really want to be constructive, focus on helping others.
Yeah.
And we'll include your content.
Coaching's hard.
Coaching's hard.
And please work on it with us. With us.
Well, right.
Right? I mean,
yes. Help us help you.
Yes.
All right. And thanks for the golf ball.
Of course.
All right. Thanks for watching the show today. I had a great time talking with Nick, as I always do. Hope you enjoyed it as well. Visit us on social media. Also, go to our website if you've got comments, questions, you want to call me an ugly name, thenickanthonyshow.com. There's a place to do it there. Give us your email address so you never miss an episode. Thank you very much. We'll see you next show.